First Steps in the Higher Life. Step 1. Indolence. From James Allen's book, Out from the Heart, my name is Steve Van Eiderstein, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. I'm extremely excited to get started on these 10 steps that we talked about last week. We are doing reading from the book Out from the Heart by James Allen. There we go. I'll be reading from a copy from the early 1900s. This book originally came out, I think, in 1904, 1905, something like that. So it's 120 plus years old, which is pretty amazing, actually, because everything that it talks about is still extremely relevant. And these steps that we're going to be talking about are the ones that James Allen gives as suggestions to get started on your spiritual path. And I think that's it's kind of crucial to be given a starting point, right? It's kind of crucial to actually say, well, all this talk of spiritual growth is great, and these perspectives and these understandings and doing these inventories and blah, 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 blah. All of it's fantastic. But where do we actually start? So what are some practical things we can do to actually get started? And remember, this is a follow-up to the book As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, which is one that was influential. It's still influential today. Actually, motivational speakers like Tony Robbins, that's on his to-read book or to-read list, on one of his top 5, I think. And then there's I can't even remember the names, but there's so many people that reference that book as a critical piece of literature that has really helped them. So it's a very substantial work. It's a very short, but it has a lot of information in it. And this is an expansion of how to actually start doing the work. So, and he gives, we're talking about, I think it's the 5th chapter, and it's called First Steps in the Higher Life. And he gives us 10 steps to start with. And the first one is going to be indolence. And this is step 1, which is the first step that we talk about, but it's also the first step regarding disciplines of the body. And now, if you remember from last week, he broke it up into disciplines of the body, disciplines of the tongue, and then disciplines of inclination. And so this is vices of the body, lesson 1, discipline of the body. And then this is step 1 within that. So this is the first out of the 10 steps, but the first out of the 2 of the body. Kind of confusing. It's all good. If you have it, if you have the book, let's see if we can get that to focus at all. Maybe. Here we go. But you'll see, you can not show you all my messiness with this copy here. But vices of the body, vices of the tongue, vices of inclination, right? So, as you can see, there's a lot of highlighting that goes into this, highlighting, underlining, commenting, all this stuff. So what we're going to do is talk about this first step that he gives us, which is indolence, vice of the body, or a discipline of the body. And it's only one paragraph, but let me tell you, there's a lot in this paragraph. So I'll go ahead and I'll read it out of the original edition that I have, and then let's have a conversation about it. So here we go. This is step 1, indolence, from the chapter First Steps in a Higher Life, from the book Out from the Heart by James Allen. It will be seen that the first step in the discipline of the mind is the overcoming of indolence. This is the easiest step, and until it is perfectly accomplished, the other steps cannot be taken. Clinging to indolence constitutes a complete barrier to the path of truth. Indolence consists in giving the body more ease and sleep than it requires, in procrastinating and in shirking and neglecting those things which should receive immediate attention. This condition of laziness must be overcome by rousing up the body at an early hour, giving it just the amount of sleep it requires for complete recuperation, and by doing promptly and vigorously every task and duty, no matter how small, as it comes along. On no account should food or drink be taken in bed, and to lie in bed after one has wakened, indulging in ease and reverie, is a habit fatal to promptness and resolution of character. and purity of mind. Nor should one attempt to do his thinking at such a time. Strong, pure, and true thinking is impossible under such circumstances. A man should go to bed to sleep, not to think. He should get up to think and work, not to sleep. And there we go. That is the first lesson. That's the first step on indolence. All wrapped up right there. It's one paragraph. But yeah, there is a ton in that paragraph. It might be short, but there's a lot in there. It is really a great place to start. Honestly, it pushes us to really take a look at our overall daily activities, right? Take a look at the daily structure that we have, our general disposition during the day. And I do want to point out that it said in the very first line of it, it will be seen that the first step in the discipline of the mind, because if we remember last week, he said these are what we're going to be talking about, behaviors of the body, behaviors of the tongue, but do not be confused. These originate in the mind, and they actually originate in the heart, even more so. The heart feeds the mind feeds our actions and our words. So these things that we're going to be talking about, these are symptoms, remember. So indolence is a symptom of our mind's condition and our heart's condition, right? So when we're actually addressing our indolence, we're intentionally and willfully changing behaviors so we can take a look at our thinking behind the way we used to be and the way we want to act, right? The indolent ways we want to behave. So remember, this is the first step in disciplining the mind in its entirety, and that comes from a discipline of the body. We have to stop the outward actions first, right? That includes the words we say, the actions we take, so we can take a look at the mind and fix the mind, right? And when we start intentionally thinking different thoughts, we're going to see how our heart is. We're going to see how our heart sits, and that's a beautiful thing. So, it's a great place to start. It really is a great place to start. And it's been a place that I've had to start in multiple times, to be honest with you. Every time I go through this book, and I've gone through this book multiple times, that's why there's underlines and there's highlights and there's all of these different actions or references in this book. I've taken notes on these steps multiple times. I've implemented them, and I've been effective with implementing them, and then it's slidden, or my life has changed and evolved, and what I've applied previously didn't carry over, so I need to do it again and refine my behavior, my actions, and that's why I wanted to bring this one in, because I'm right in the middle of the transition again, and I'm going to be able to share with you how I'm practicing this and how it shows up in my life as we go step by step. So I'm really excited about it. So, but after that first sentence, it gives this statement: this is the easiest step, and until it is perfectly accomplished, the other steps cannot be taken. So puts a little bit of emphasis on the steps. It's a little bit intimidating, actually, because if you were listening along, it talks about some pretty common things that we all do, like getting out of bed as soon as we wake up, right? Going to sleep as soon as we lay down. It talks about promptly doing things when they show up, not pushing things off. It talks about not shirking our responsibilities. And to say that this is the easiest step, I think, is deceiving. I found this one to be actually quite difficult. It's the easiest step because maybe it requires the least amount of thinking. You just do differently. Or maybe he's just trying to set us up to think about it as easy. I'm not sure, but it's important that this step be perfected. And it kind of reminds me of how people in 12-step recovery say you got to do the first step perfectly. And because it translates to this too, like you can't get sober if you're still drinking and drugging. You can't stop gambling if you're still gambling. You have to stop the behavior, right? And you have to effectively stay away from that consistently, that bad behavior, right? So you can stop the behavior, stop the symptom, and then change the thinking, change the perspective, change the heart, right? So it's an intimidating statement, but it's familiar. It's one that I think it's definitely doable. It just seems to be a tall order when you first read it. At least it was for me. So even though it says it's the easiest step, it might be for you. It might be, and honestly, for me, it might be too. Because I've done the rest of them, or I've worked on the rest of them. Maybe is a better way to say it. And it seems difficult because it's the first one to do. Right? Quitting using drugs is difficult because you've used drugs for so long. Quitting drinking is so difficult because you drank for so long, right? That's been my story. So the initial change always seems a little overwhelming, but when you actually get to it, it probably is the easiest at the end of the day, but doesn't mean it is objectively easy. Comparatively, it's the easiest one out of all the steps. So I wanted to read the... I have a 19, I don't know if I've referenced it on this podcast before. Every time I look down, the light changes. But this is a Webster's, I don't know if you can see it, Webster's Dictionary for home, college, and something else, I think. Let me take an office. College, home, and office from 1929. I use this because I like at least a time period relevant dictionary because I have found that definitions have changed over the years. And so I wanted to just give you an official definition of indolence. And let me see, where is it? Indolence. The love of ease, indisposition to labor, laziness, supineness. I didn't know what supineness meant, so I looked that up, actually. And supineness, the state or quality of being supine, or lying on the back. Indolent, so circular definition if you use that one. Careless, inattentive, negligent. A Latin verbal noun ending in and u, right? So, it's lazy. It's relaxing. It is careless. It is not caring. It is... prone to ease and comfort, right? How did it say here? Indolence. Love of ease. Indisposition to labor. Laziness, right? So it's a little bit too much of that. I'm just going to sit back and relax type of attitude, right? And it's important that this step is addressed first, right? Because this addresses our laziness and our resistance to do anything else. That is why I think he put it first. We have to address the laziness, right? He begins to set us up to affect the change, to actually take on the change. And without it, the rest of these steps are actually pointless. That's why he said it needs to be perfected, right? And because if you aren't actually addressing this indolence, you're really not going to make it too far with this whole spiritual journey thing. And he tells us why. The clinging to indolence constitutes a complete barrier to the path of truth, right? And that's what we're pursuing here. Spiritual growth is really the pursuit of truth. And the path of truth is, the door is shut because of indolence, right? Because indolence is the desire to be comfortable. And change in following truth, especially in the beginning, is very, very uncomfortable. It is largely uncomfortable to sit there and say, I want to pursue truth. I want to know, to learn spiritual principles. I want to have spiritual growth in my life. I want to have change, right? That is uncomfortable. So indolence is the love of comfort, is the love of rest, is the love of laziness and inaction. So we need to address that first, because the rest is going to demand some more change, right? And if we can't actually do this first, then there's no point in even trying to do the rest. So it's essential to begin to overcome indolence, because we choose comfortable lies all the time over uncomfortable truths. And we need to be willing to engage with the uncomfortable truths for the actual spiritual growth. That's why indolence blocks the path of truth and this journey to enlightenment and knowledge. Because we'd rather be comfortably miserable than uncomfortably free, which sounds odd, but just take a look around you for yourself, watch others. That is one of the most true statements I was ever told and I've experienced. It was true for my own personal experience. And so it makes sense to me why indolence has to be the first thing, this laziness, this tendency to pursue ease and comfort needs to be addressed. So I read the Webster's definition from 1929, but so he gives his own definition of it, which is very similar. Indolence consists in giving the body more ease and sleep than it requires, in procrastinating, and in shirking and neglecting those things which should receive immediate attention. So he gives three parts of it. So, and yeah, this is Allen's definition. I'm not sure where he pulled it from. He didn't tell us where he pulled it from. But I think this incorporates everything that the Webster's dictionary gave us, and it makes it much more personal. It gave us more definitive examples of what it looks like, right? And I first want to point out that these behaviors, procrastination, especially shirking and neglecting those things which should receive immediate attention, right? Or the pursuit of ease, those can show up in all areas of your life. First and foremost, we're not just talking about at home with your family. We can have it in regards to going to the gym. We can have it in regards to our employment, to our employer, to our coworkers, to the people we serve, right? Like we can procrastinate at our jobs. We can shirk responsibilities at our jobs, right? We can try to make things easy at our jobs. So this is not just in one area of life. This is your behaviors in all areas of life. And what I've found in my personal experience is that if you have it in one area, you've got them in them all. So you're going to have to address it in its entirety. You can't just pick and choose which area of life you're going to not be indolent in. Because if you are doing it in 9 areas of life and 9 relationships and you're trying to change it in one, eventually you're just going to go back to it because you're not truly actually changing. You're still enjoying the benefits of your indolence in other areas. So we need to be very careful about this. Now, the first thing he references is this is giving the body more ease and sleep than it requires. So that's an interesting phrase, isn't it? That's an interesting way he put it. It doesn't say oversleeping only. It says ease and sleep. Now, when it puts it that way, there's a lot of things that we pursue for ease, right? This could be drinking. This could be using substances, but this could also be binge watching Netflix. This could also be a shopping problem. This could also be a doom scrolling on your phone all the time. Those are technically things that cause ease, even though they are anxiety provoking, but it's easy to do them. You're in a relaxed state. You are not actually engaging in the world in those. But this also includes like oversleeping. It does include this. But when it says ease, like taking the easy way out of things is maybe a good way to see it. Like you're avoiding your life responsibilities because through one or multiple distractions instead of actually addressing them, right? That's indulging in ease, right? Which is because there's something to be said for recovering, right? And he says that more ease and sleep than it is required for a full recovery, right? Well, that's in the next quote, I believe. But a lot of us pursue ease and we don't even realize it. We call it relaxation. We call it many, many, many things, right? And I want you to know too, like he's saying this 122 years ago, right? Like avoid things that are just the easy way out. And what is all of the psychological practice is telling us? What is all the science telling us about our brain chemistry? When we are constantly just taking the easy way out and avoiding responsibility and avoiding facing the world head on, it results in mental health issues. It results in anxiety. It results in depression. He was saying this 120 years ago. He's saying you can't just like avoid the world through ease and comfort. You can't just sleep away the world. Guess what? You're going to get depressed. We know that now. It's amazing how aware he was, how knowledgeable he was of the negative impact of these things. Even though he didn't necessarily articulate it, he knew that it was a bad thing to overly pursue ease and sleep. It feels like we lost some of that message along the way, and we're just rediscovering it now. And a place where this shows up in a really unhealthy way, and this is a personal problem or a personal argument I make all the time with people, actually, is this idea. We have this idea of self-care in a lot of the service industries, or just in the world in general. And though it was probably created and started with good intentions, it's been distorted into this unhealthy thing where people get to justify their addictions and justify their escapes from reality by calling it self-care. Right? Like self-care is taking actions that allow you to be rejuvenated and to recover yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's what self-care is. It is not binge watching Netflix to relax. It is not doom scrolling on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube Shorts even for hours on end to distract yourself from the world. That is not self-care. It's not eating sweets every single day. That is not self-care. That is all just a problem. That is you trying to medicate the life you are a part of. True self-care are actions taken to help bring you up to 100%. And all those things I just listed do not bring you up to 100%. It's journaling, it's meditating, it's eating good, healthy food for yourself. It's having healthy outlets, right? Like those are healthy self-care things, connecting with real people in the world, getting connected back to nature, and actually being a part of the world, not escaping it, not running away from it, not materialistically medicating ourselves and deluding ourselves with all these things to convince us that we are okay. Our pursuit of ease has taken a substantial role in many of our lives, especially those who drink and who drug. You know, that's what our main justification is for using the substances, is like, I'm just trying to feel better in this world. Without this stuff, I can't function. That's what I used to say. And thank God that's not the case. Thank God I was shown a different way to live, like these 10 steps illustrate. Because without it, I would still be trying to justify my escapes on a daily basis. So if you're doing things to relax, quote unquote, and it's just disconnecting you from the world, and you do it often and regularly, and it's not actually helping you get any better, it's not improving your mental health, it's not changing your perspective, it's not improving your physical health, your spiritual health, your emotional awareness and depth and resiliency, then it's a waste of time. It's just a pursuit of ease and a form of indolence that we use because we feel like we deserve it. So this first definitional aspect of indolence that he brings up, this pursuit of ease and sleep in an unhealthy way, quite relevant to the world today. And then he goes into procrastination, which is the pushing off of things that need to be done. So I'll do it tomorrow. And then he also brings in the shirking the responsibility and obligation, right? Neglecting things. So they just outright saying, I won't do it. I'm not doing it, right? That's indolence. And I find these things all over in my life. I'm doing better with a lot of them because I've intentionally done it because of reading this book and also living a recovery lifestyle and doing and changing behaviors. But I'm still not perfect at it. I procrastinate all the time. And like I said, these can show up anywhere, especially at work. At work, there's some things I just want to push off. At home, I don't want to put my laundry away, right? I don't want to cook dinner. I'd rather order out. That's ease, right? That's me trying to make my life just easier when I don't need to. I just need to do it when I need to do it. Or I'll start with the gym tomorrow. I'll start my diet tomorrow. I'll start this or I'll do that. Like we're always compromising. We're always shorting ourselves of our commitments, right? That's part of indolence as well. And I've done it a lot over my life, a lot. And I just want to reiterate at this moment that I am personally going through this book as well with you. I'm a little bit ahead of y'all, but this is still something I actively have to work on because we have to do this as perfectly as possible. He says it has to be perfectly at the beginning of this lesson or this step. So I need to stay aware of indolence. I need to stay aware of my selfishness and my self-centeredness to push away my responsibilities, to delay, right? I have to stay aware of this. So this is something I'm actively working on. This is something that I'm actively doing. So just remember that. So it's kind of a cool thing. We get to go on this journey together. So we're going to go into the next part because we went through James Allen's definition. And then he says the condition of laziness, this condition of laziness must be overcome by rousing up the body at an early hour, giving it just the amount of sleep it requires for complete recuperation. Like I said, appropriate amounts of sleep, and by doing promptly and vigorously every task and duty, no matter how small, as it comes along. So first and foremost, don't oversleep. Don't oversleep. Just don't be just laying in bed, avoiding the world. Get up and get out into the world and get ready to go and become a part of it. Face it head on, right? Get up with enough time to healthily engage with the world. We're not good at that, right? And we're also supposed to rest only enough. We need to adequately to adequately recover and recuperate from the previous day. That's it. We're not supposed to catch up on sleep. We're supposed to just consistently get a healthy amount of sleep to actually bring us up to a healthy state. All right. We're not supposed to just sleep away our days. We're not supposed to avoid responsibilities. We're not supposed to be late to work. That's one thing that I struggled with this, right? And the thing is, I love that he talks about this because if we consistently oversleep, we actually become more depressed and we become more tired because we're not actually engaging in the world. We're in a stupor most of the time, right? And then he talks about attacking tasks head on and doing things promptly. What we now know due to science, and it's kind of a, well, of course, moment, right? But everything you put off and delay and you knowingly are doing it or you're neglecting and you're shirking the responsibility of, you're not promptly, promptly and vigorously addressing every single task that comes your way. Guess what? You're going to have anxiety. Guess what? You're going to become overwhelmed. When you have anxiety and you feel overwhelmed, guess what? You're going to be depressed. So he's talking about all of these things that people are writing massive books about and how it's so important that we do this and we take action and there's this method and that method and do this and do that and you're depressed because of this and you're overwhelmed because of that. Well, guess what? He wrote about this 120 years ago. He's saying, get up early and do what you have to do. Quit being selfish and lazy and do it. And I know that sounds pretty blunt and pretty maybe even abrasive to some because we want to be coddled or we want to be sugar coated or we want to be saying it's okay, it's not your fault. But it's your responsibility. Get up and do something. Get up and participate in this world. Be a part of it. And the resistance to not do that, the resistance to continue to stay in bed, to sleep, to oversleep, to not face the world is indolence, and that indolence leads to anxiety, a sense of doom and depression and overwhelm. Right? So he's saying, just get up in the mornings. Sleep only what's necessary. Right? The emotional drain from oversleeping and depression and all of these things is incredible. But the thing is, you cannot stay in bed when you have that. You have to get up and face the world, and then take the appropriate actions to actually address it, the things that are drowning you in emotional overload. It's so, so important. So, I really enjoy that I'm really happy that he brings up to attack the task, to address things as they come up, right? Doing things promptly. I'm not always great at that. That delay of task is in my back pocket. I've done enough today. I don't need to do that. Or why should I have to do this as well today? Or that should be this person's responsibility. I don't think this is, or sometimes at my work previously, I'd say this doesn't make sense. I'm not doing it. When to be a good employee, I'm supposed to abide by every rule and regulation that they have. But I didn't care. I didn't like it, so I didn't do it. That's being indolent. That's also being rebellious and selfish and self-centered, right? Because you signed the line to say you would do these things, but I still like to be like, man, I'm going to do it my way. So when we really boil this down, he's saying you need to change your indolent ways, and you need to do it regardless of how you feel about it. You need to do it regardless if you want to do it or not. You just need to do it, right? We respect our feelings a little bit too much. Our feelings are meant to help us be guided through situation, give us some awareness. Some flags can go off with our emotions that we can pay attention to, but we need to not let our emotions drive the bus, because we make terrible decisions then, right? If we let our emotions drive the bus and we are depressed, guess what? You're going to sleep more and become more depressed, and then get overwhelmed and become more depressed, and have anxiety and depression and a sense of overwhelm. And guess what? You're going to get worse, right? We need to acknowledge our emotions, but still do what we need to do anyway. We need to overcome the indolence that is rife throughout our lives. At least was rife throughout mine. And it's still there. I'm not perfect. I'm doing better. But I need to take actions regardless of how I feel about the actions, if it's healthy and appropriate. And I found in my recovery, in my experience, and my spiritual journey, when I do that, when I say, I don't want to get up, but I'm getting up anyway. I don't want to go to the gym, but I'm going anyway. I don't want to do the paperwork my job requires, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't want to do this spreadsheet, but I'm going to do it anyway. When I just do it, the reward at the end of that and establishing new habits in that way is profound. It is incredible to see that freedom that comes from just doing the right thing and doing what's put in front of you promptly. Because if not, I'll make up a whole story about it. I'll spend more time justifying why I shouldn't do something than it would take to do the thing. I do that all the time. And what do they call that? Making mountains out of molehills. It's a common practice. So let's go into the last section of this paragraph. It's a long read. On no account, it's giving us some more instructions, right? So he just told us, get out of bed on time, get up at an early hour, do things promptly and vigorously, right? And then he goes on to say, on no account should food or drink be taken in bed, and to lie in bed after you have wakened, indulging in ease and reverie, is a habit fated. Excuse me. Hold on. I got to read that. Okay. Excuse me. Is a habit fatal to promptness and resolution of character and purity of mind, nor should one attempt to do his thinking at such a time. Strong, pure, and true thinking is impossible under such circumstances. A man should go to bed to sleep, not to think. He should get up to think and work, not to sleep. Seems pretty important statement right there. I actually love how that ended. It is That first thing there is not to lie in bed, don't take food or drink into your bed, right? And how it's a pretty powerful word he uses there. It is fatal to promptness and resolution. I mean, that's what he's saying. Don't hit your snooze button, right there. That's what that says. Do not hit your snooze button, right? When you waken, get up. When it goes off the first time, get up. Because if we don't, guess what? It's fatal to our promptness and resolution of character, right? Because we become dishonest. I'm going to get up at this time and I'm going to get to work on time. I'm going to do the things right, but we don't do it. Snoozing an alarm is actually kind of dishonest because we've told ourselves we're going to get up, which is an interesting way to look at it, but it is true. And it affects our purity of mind. Really, really big things to consider. So lying in bed, hitting the snooze button, not taking the actions, eating or drinking in bed. Many people do it. I know. I do not do it. That is one of the ones on here I do well. I don't eat or drink in the bed. But that really, when we do those things, it reinforces a selfish, self-centered state of mind. We're pursuing the ease, right? We're pursuing comfort with that, which is all indolence. We should get up when the alarm goes off. We don't eat in bed. We sleep in the bed only, right? So I really enjoyed the last line of this paragraph, though. A man should go to bed to sleep, not to think. He should get up to think and work, not to sleep. This was a problem I had for a long time. Because what would happen is I would lay down and I wouldn't be able to sleep. People would say, oh, you've got anxiety. And that was true. I would have anxiety. But what I had trained my body to do is I would scroll on my phone. Just scroll on my phone. I would contemplate my resentments when I laid down at night. My head would hit the pillow and I would do nothing but think and overthink and contemplate and make up stories and anxieties, right? Or watch movies while I'm trying to go to sleep, having all of this input into my mind. It's not healthy. But we train ourselves to do that. My body knew that I was going to go lay down and then be engaged by doom scrolling on my phone for X amount of time, or be engaged by contemplating my insecurities, by contemplating my resentments, by thinking about things from 25 years ago. Like, that is what I trained my mind to actually do when I went to bed. So I had to change that. I had to change that drastically. When I go to bed now, I go to bed to sleep. If I lay down and I start overthinking things, I start having all this stuff run across my mind, and I start thinking about all this stuff, I get out of bed. I don't roll over and thrash and wish I could go to sleep and yell at myself in my head and try to push things out. I get out of bed because I'm not going to train myself that when I'm in bed, that happens. I get out of bed, I read, I write, I meditate, I pray, I do something to help me through that neurotic thinking that was going on. Instead of just sitting there stewing in it, wishing I was sleeping in the bed, teaching myself that when I lay in bed, this can happen. No, get out of bed. Stay awake until you feel like you can sleep, until your mind is quiet enough. Do that evening review, do that inventory if you need to, call somebody if you need to, pray, meditate, watch a movie on the couch. If you need to doom scroll on a couch. Just do not do it in your bed. And when you train yourself and you normalize and habituate yourself to only sleeping in the bed, pretty soon, as soon as you get into bed, you will only sleep. Instead of having a hard time falling asleep, your body becomes trained to say, oh, I am in bed. This is now when I sleep. It's a beautiful thing. I didn't know that was possible. There was one time where I had my work computer in my bedroom with me, and my bedroom became my workspace, and I was having the worst sleep of my life because I had associated my sleeping space as my workspace. So it was just anxiety provoking the entire time. It didn't work well. I had to remove it. I had to move it out of there, put it somewhere else. Right. My office is my workspace now. My office is where I do this podcast. I do my reading. I do this and that. That all is contained here. So I know when I'm here, this is the train of mind that I'm in. This is the thing that I'm doing. And guess what? I habituated myself to doing it. Just like when I go into my bedroom and I lay down at night on my bed, my body knows it's time to sleep. What are you training your body to do? That is what he is talking about here. You can't do any good thinking laying down in your comfy little bed trying to sleep, or after you just woke up when you're scrolling on your phone. Do not do your thinking in your bed. Get up to do your thinking and your work. It's a great thing to live by. So, I want to share with you for a moment what I did when I first read this lesson, or this step, because I realized I had a lot of work I needed to do in this area again. Like I said, my life changed, so that means I need to look at things differently. So I wrote down, I've listened to a lot of speakers and a lot of motivational people and psychologists and a lot of good people on the topic. I wrote down a schedule I'd like to have and behaviors I'd like to have. This included when to get up. This included what to do in a morning routine, what to do in an evening routine. It included how I'd like to go to the gym, what to do on my work days, and if they would be different from my non-work days. Right? I drew myself up a schedule I would enjoy having. And then I took this schedule I enjoyed having and wrote what I'm doing right now. There were some discrepancies between the two, as I'm sure you can relate. If you can't relate, then I applaud you for your tenacity. And I was looking at those two things, and I've tried to change my schedule multiple times before and just shift with things. And what I realized was I was taking too much on in one shot. I was doing too much. I was expecting to shift my entire world, and then when it failed, I'd give up and cry that the world wasn't fair, or that I can't do it right now, and I need to wait till the world's more appropriate for me to do it. But I took an honest look at these things, and I was like, I want to practice this step thoroughly in my life. So how do I do that? And I was like, what is the first things I can do to help me effectively change? And I got to tell you, sometimes it's humbling when you ask questions like that, because you're like, oh, well, I'll just set my alarm 2 hours earlier so I can get up and I can meditate for even longer before I go into the gym. And then I'll come back and I'll shower and I'll eat and I'll do all this and I'll implement all of this tomorrow. When previously you were getting up 10 minutes before you had to leave for work, rushing around and barely making it to work any type of on time. So what I did was I wanted to take two actions. I wrote two actions down. I wanted to just get up when my alarm went off. I didn't want to change the time my alarm was going off. I just didn't want to snooze it anymore. I wanted to get up when my alarm went off, then put my phone away from me at 9 o'clock at night, so I wasn't constantly looking at it and engaging with it. And starting there. Because what this whole lesson really does is gives us a new structure to live by. Get up early, get the right amount of rest. Don't put things off. Do what you're supposed to do during the day, things that are presented to you during the day. When you sleep, go to sleep. When you wake, get up. Right? So it's giving us structure to put into our day right out the gate. Structure that helps us not be indolent. So I wanted to embody that in some way. I wanted to take that initiative. So, and if you're like me, maybe that'll help. If you hit the snooze button and you want to just start changing your life around, and you realize the big sweeping changes don't always work that well for you, try just not hitting snooze. Start small. Give yourself the opportunity to be successful at a small change first and see where that can take you. Make your changes bite-sized in the beginning, and as you start to nibble away at them, that suddenly bigger and more impactful changes happen, and it just starts to snowball, one thing after another, and then suddenly you got I'm a part of this new schedule that I wanted to be a part of. I'm not there quite yet, to be completely transparent with you, but I'm doing a whole lot better. It's affected my mental health in a way that's really positive. It's given me motivation to do things differently. I feel like a more responsible coworker and employee. So there's benefits from even the small changes. So give yourself the space to make just a small one first. At least that was my experience. So there we go, though. There we go. We are we're going to wrap up the first step of the discipline of the body, which was indolence. And then next week, we're going to talk about a very difficult one for me, self-indulgence. So thank you all for joining me. Thank you for the likes, the follows, the subscribes, the views, all of it. Everybody that's listening to me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening from. I'm extremely grateful for the support, TikTok and X, Instagram, Facebook, wherever it is that you're getting this message. Just thank you very much for your support. I find it encouraging that people are hearing this message, and some aren't agreeing and some are, but a good dialogue means it's getting to where it needs to go. So thank you very much. And until next time, thanks.